we're gonna destroy this pod. Okay, whenever we attack the pod, it will play the destructible animation, and after once again it will destroy itself. I'm gonna leave in the description of this sprite sheet, okay, sprites. Okay, you can go and check this out. So let's get into this. As you can see, this is a sprite sheet. If I hit the sprite editor, okay, as you can see there are multiple sprites. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna cut off individually. So we need to select sprite mode to multiple. Okay, we're gonna select multiple and pixel per unit to 16. Okay, and filter mode to point no filter, because this is an X pixel art, so that's why. After doing that, hit apply. Okay, and after doing that, hit apply and hit the sprite button once again. Over in the left corner top, you will able to see slice. So we're gonna select automatic to, okay, automatic to grid by cell count, and count how many columns and rows it has. It has 7 columns and 12 rows, as you can see. So I'm gonna slice it, and then after slicing it, hit apply. Okay, so it will cut off individually. So we're gonna drag the pot one. So I'm gonna select the game view once again, and I'm gonna drag the pot over here. As you can see, I'm going to drag it over here. So what we're gonna do, whenever we attack this one, okay, it will just play the destructible animation, as you can see. So we have those sprites. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna first name gonna rename this to something like pot. Okay, something like that. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna make the animation. Okay, we're gonna make the animation. So we're gonna make the first animation, which will be pot idle. Okay, this will just play this one, as you can see. So select the pot, I'm gonna drag the animation tab over here. Okay, so we're gonna create a new animation clip. Okay, so we're gonna so select the pot and hit the create button. Okay, and we're gonna go to assets. We have created this animation folder. We're gonna go over to that, and we're gonna create a subfolder. So right click. Okay, new new folder. We're gonna name this something like pot underscore animation. Okay, pot underscore animation. And then we're gonna double click it to open up that subfolder, and we're gonna name this something like pot underscore ideal, something like that. Okay, something like that. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna make the animation. So select the pot and hit the record button and add property. Okay, add property. We're gonna select this sprite. So add property, go to sprite and select this plus one. Now this one will just play this one, as you can see. So we're gonna hit the record button once again, and we're gonna create the destructible one. Okay, so it will split up into parts, this pot. So we're gonna select the pot once again, and we're gonna create a new clip. Okay, and we're gonna name this something like pot destructible. Okay, we're gonna name this something like pot destructible, I guess, destructible, and hit enter. So we're gonna drag those frames. Okay, so hit the record button once again, and we're gonna drag destructible sprites. Okay, select all of them and drag it into the animation tab. And if we play, as you can see, it is too fast. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna make spaces between these keyframes. So we're gonna like 30, we're gonna move around that. As you can see, now it's great. Okay, now as you can see, it just is split up into individual parts, as you can see. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna hit the record button once again. Okay, to record. Now we have captured both of those animation. First one is ideal one, and the second one is destructible. So I'm gonna drag the animation tab down once again, and if we go to animator tab, okay, and if I select the pot, as you can see, pot ideal, as well as we have created pot destructible. Okay, so we're gonna set a parameter. If that parameter is true, sorry, if that parameter, we're gonna trigger that parameter. Okay, we're gonna create a trigger. So select the so what we're gonna do, we're gonna make transition between this state. We're gonna go to pod destructible, but when we should go, whenever the player attacks this spot. Okay, whenever the player attacks this spot. So what we're gonna do, in the left, as you can see, parameter. So we're gonna select this trigger and trigger one. Okay, and we're gonna call something like destructible, I guess. Destruct, sorry, destructible destructible, something like that, and hit enter. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna transition to the pod destructible. Okay, so right click on pod idle and make transition, and we're gonna choose a condition in which condition we want to go. So select this transition arrow, and we're gonna have untick this has exit time. Okay, and we're gonna select transition duration to 0. We're gonna immediately go to that pod destructible whenever the player attacks, okay, with sword. So if we select, and we're gonna choose the condition in which condition we want to go. So select this plus, okay, hit this plus, and as you can see, we're gonna trigger this parameter. Now if I play, okay, now if I play and if I trigger this destructible parameter, okay, destructible parameter, we will able to see the transition will go to pod destructible. Okay, just wait for to compile. And if we set this trigger parameter, as you can see, but see, it's looping. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna uncheck the loop time. So we have created those two animation. Okay, if we go to project and if we go to animation folder, we have created the subfolder of pod underscore animation, as you can see, and we have these two animation, as you can see. Firstly the pod destructible, sorry, pod idle, as you can see, and also with pod destructible. As you can see in the inspector, right, you can able to see the loop time which is checked. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna uncheck this so it will not loop. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna firstly assign this pot as a pot layer. Okay, for if I open up the player attack script, as you can see, we have created a circle around this attack point. Okay, we have created this child game object of attack point, as you can see, and we created a circle around this attack point. So if I go to animation, if I select the player, and if I go to animation, and if I select the player attack animation, as you can see over here, we calling this attack function, as you can see. And what attack function is doing, if we go to player script, okay, if we go to player attack script, as you can see, okay, whenever we press, we just playing the animation, okay. So as you can see, we have created this attack animation. Firstly, physics 2d dot overlap circle over here takes three argument. First argument, it will take the position from where you want to create the circle. As you can see, we just creating around the circle attack point. And the second parameter, it will take the radius of that circle, the circle you want to create, the radius of that circle. As you can see, we have pass attack radius, which is float parameter. As you can see, by default we selected 1.2 unit, but we made it public so we can adjust in the inspector. So that's why we made it public. And the third argument, it will take the layer mask, basically which layer you want to target. As a layer mask, just we have only passed if I select the player, as you if I select the player attack script, as you can see, layer marks, we have selected enemy and patrol enemy layer. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna also choose this pot animation. Okay, sorry, pot layer. So what we need to do, we need to firstly assign this pot as a pot layer. Okay, so this function over here, if this function collide with enemy layer or whatever we have assigned it as a layer mask, if that circle collide with that layer, so this function over here will be true. Okay, and this function is true, so the hit over here will be true. Okay, the hit over here will be true. So if hit is true, so what we're gonna do, so I'm gonna replace this for now. What we're gonna do, we're gonna print out the name what we hit. Okay, so we need to type this debug.log. Okay, and we're gonna print out the name what we hit. So for that, we have to go to hit, and we're gonna access the transform of that game object whatever we trigger it, or sorry, hit with, and we're gonna print out the name of that game object. So okay, so control us on your keyboard. So as you know, physics 2d dot overlap circle will create the circle from our attack point. As a attack point, we have dragged that attack point position as you seen in the player. Okay, and we have specified the attack radius. Okay, by default we set it 1.2, but we can adjust in the inspector, so that's why we made it public. But as a third argument, we have passed the layer mark. As a layer mark, we have chosen enemy and patrol enemy layer. we also gonna choose the port layer. Okay, firstly we need to assign port as a port layer, then we're gonna choose the layer mask as a port layer as well. So this function over here will be true or false if the circle collide with this layer mask, whatever we have assigned it as a layer. So this function over here will be true, so the over here hit will be true if the hit is true. Okay, if the hit is true, if hit is true, so what we are doing, we're just printing out the name what we hit. As you can see, firstly we are going to hit okay, and accessing the transform component of that game object. By transform component, we just printing out the name dot, we just getting the name, as you can see. So control s on your keyboard to save this and head again to Unity. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna assign this port as a port layer. So in the inspector you can see in the right, as you can see, default we layer which selected default. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna add layer, and we're gonna assign this layer as a port layer, and we just head again to layer once again, and we're gonna select default to port layer. Just wait for to compile and you will able to see that. Okay, uh, so now if we hit the select this default layer, okay, default layer, so we're gonna add a layer, and we're gonna name this something like port. Okay, port, and we're gonna and save it, hit enter to save it, and go again to player so game object. As you can see, we just have chosen the enemy and petrol enemy layer, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna also choose this port layer. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna select the port as well. Now we have assigned it those layer. Okay, and if we go to port once again in the inspector, you can see layer which is selected default. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna choose the port layer. Okay, so click on that default and we're gonna select the port. Now we have assigned this port as a port layer. Okay, so now if we hit play and if we go to console, select the console and hit play, we will able to see the name of the port will appear, because the circle will collide with the port layer. Okay, because we are calling the attack function through our animation. If we select the player, as you seen, we calling that function in attack animation. Okay, so now if I get near to port and if I hit, okay, so what we need, we also need to add box collider 2D. So that's why it's not printing out the name, because we also need to add box collider or circle collider to this spot, so we will detect the collision. Okay, so we just forgot that. So what we're gonna do, as you can see, we have also added an animator. Whenever we created the animation clip, by default this animator component has been added, and this component over here is responsible for animating the character and switching animation. So we also need this animator component of this pod. Then we, by this animator component, we're gonna set this destructible to trigger. So if it's trigger, if I select the arrow, so it will go to this pod destructible animation clip. As you can see, we have chosen that condition. We're gonna set this trigger. Okay, destruct, we have to pass the same name as it we did in the animation tab, as you can see. So if I select the pot once again, so we also need to add a collider for collision detection, so that that's the reason it's not colliding, not sprinting out. Okay, so what we need, select the pot and add component. Okay, and we're gonna add something like circle collider 2D, and we're gonna resize the circle collider. Okay, so hit this edit collider and we're gonna resize the radius something like this. I guess I'm gonna move the offset in the X and I'm gonna move something like this. Now it's fine. Okay, so what we're gonna do, 0.5. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we also gonna add a rigid body 2D. So if I select the pot and if I select the move tool, if I move it over here, so rigid body, as you know, is responsible for adding gravity. So we're gonna add rigid body 2D as well. Okay, rigid body 2D as well. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna select we're gonna increase the gravity. Okay, so let's suppose we're gonna set gravity scale to 3, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna select collision detection to continuous. Okay, continuous. And then if I select the console, if I now hit play, it will fall down due to gravity. And we have added the collider, circle collider or collider basically. So we will detect over if we attack this spot. Okay, the port name will print out in the console, because as you know, as you can see, port just the name we just printing out the in console. Okay, instead of printing out the name, what we're gonna do, we're gonna destroy this port. Firstly, we're gonna play the animation. Okay, so what we need, we need this if I select the port, as you can see, we have by default animator component has been added. So we need this animator component of port. By this animator component we can switch the animation. If I select the animator tab once again, as you can see, we have created this destructible trigger. So we're gonna set this trigger. Okay, firstly we need this animator component, then we will able to set this destructible parameter to trigger. Okay, so as you can see, if I select the transition, as you can see, we have chosen that trigger. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go over to script once again. Instead of printing out name, what we're gonna do, we're gonna get the animator component of that port. So what we need, firstly we need to go to hit. Okay, we will try to get component which is port. Okay, sorry, which is animator component, as you know. So we're gonna grab that animator component by so what we're doing, we just accessing the whatever we hit with, as we just accessing the animator component, and we definitely gonna hit the port. So we are getting the animator component of the port, as you can see. Okay, so just we are grabbing the animator component. Okay, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna trigger that parameter. Okay, so we have to type this set trigger. Okay, set trigger, and we have to pass the same name as we did in the animator tab. As you can see, it's destructible. You have to pass the same spelling or same name over there. So set trigger, and we have to pass the name. So destructible. Okay, destructible, I guess I name it. Okay, now it's okay. So control s on your keyboard to save this. So firstly what we doing, as you know, if a hit is true, basically the circle is colliding with our pot layer or whatever we assign it as a layer mask. Okay, so firstly we grabbing the animator component by going to this hit, and we are just getting the component animator of the pot, and then we are triggering that parameter destructible name whatever we assign it. Okay, so control s on your keyboard to save this and head again to Unity. You will able to see whenever we collide with this the circle collide with this pot layer, the pot layer we just going to pot game object, and we just getting the animator component. By animator component we just triggering this parameter destructible. Okay, so just wait for to compile. Okay, now if I hit play, okay, if I now hit play, and we are calling that attack function through our animation. Okay, so just wait for to compile and you will able to see. So now, so what we gonna do, if I now, as you can see, it's playing the pot animation, as you can see, as you can see. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna destroy the this game object after a specified amount of time. We're gonna specify that. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we firstly need to look of the animation. If I select the pot game object, if I select the pot destructible, as you can see, after 0.3 second it just completing the whole animation. Okay, so what we're gonna do, after 1 second we're gonna destroy this pot. So what we need, we need to use destroy function. Okay, destroy. Okay, so head again to script once again, and we're gonna pass destroy, and the destroy function will take the game object you want to destroy. So we're gonna destroy the hit dot game object. Basically whatever we hit with, we're gonna destroy that game object, and as a second parameter you can specify the time. Okay, so I'm gonna something like 1 second. After 1 second I'm gonna destroy and end up with semicolon, and control s on your keyboard to save this and head again to Unity. Okay, head again to Unity. After 1 second it will destroy whenever we attack. Okay, so if I, as you can see, we have created this public attack, and we are calling this attack function via our animation. Okay, so if I go back to once again to Unity, I will explain that for a bit. Okay, for a little, just wait for to compile and you will able to see that. Okay, so just if I select the, okay, if I select the, now if I select the pot, sorry, player. If I select the player and go to an animation clip, and then I am gonna select. So as you can see, we are calling attack function over here. So what you need to do, as you can see in the left, you have to add event. So we are calling the function over here. Okay, as you can see, we firstly going to player attack script, then methods basically function, and we are accessing the attack function, as you can see, and we made it public, so that's why we are able to see and call it from here. Okay, so I hope you get the idea. Now if I play, okay, now if I play, if I collide, if the circle collide with this pot, or if we attack this pot, it will firstly play the destructible animation, and after 1 second it will destroy itself, because we are destroy using this destroy function. Now if I, as you can see, after 1 second it's destroying from this in view as well as from the hierarchy. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna make prefab of this game object. Okay, so we will have the save option. So create a prefab folder, and into that prefab folder select the pot and drag it into that prefab folder. Now if I delete from the scene view or hierarchy, I can just directly drag to scene view, as you can see. Now we have, as you can see, we have animator component, circle collider, rigid body, all is saved. Okay, so I hope you get the idea, and if you are new to my channel, then subscribe it for future tutorials, upcoming tutorials. Okay, and if you enjoyed this video, then like this and share it with your friends who want to learn Unity from the beginning, from scratch. Okay, and if you want to support me, you can support me on patreon.com. Okay, and lastly, thanks for watching this video. I hope you get the idea. Okay, goodbye.